This year has finally shaken up the smartphone market. We've had new contenders, phones that have vastly improved, as well as past giants who've just fallen off the radar. So because it's been such a big one, I have custom designed 10 different trophies to award to the winners of our 10 different categories, all leading up to the single best smartphone in the market right now, and the winner of this giant thing. So let's start with the Most Improved Award. Which company has made the biggest jump from their last phone? And it has to be Google. Look at this beast of a trophy. I'm so proud of this. When their Pixel 6 launched last year, it gave us this glimpse of something special. A bit of never-before-seen software magic. But it was kind of hard to appreciate it when the phone was plagued with reception issues, bugs and glitches all around, a wonky fingerprint scanner, and some pretty grainy-looking video recording. I can see pixels in the Pixel. So, considering all of that, I am genuinely shocked that in 1 year, they fixed all of those issues with the Pixel 7s. And that allows you to focus on what actually makes them so special. Things like the lively animated software and the incredible photo processing. This award is all yours, Google. So then we've got kind of the opposite award. What's the most timeless phone? Or in other words, which phone from last year still holds up the best this year? For which, the iPhone 13 feels like a bit of a no-brainer. Partly because it's still a solid phone. It's fast, it's got good battery, and it's got 4 more years of full-on software support from now. And it's partly the fact that its replacement, the iPhone 14, is almost the same phone. Now, I am someone who would normally always side with paying a little bit more to get the latest, but in this particular case, for an extra $100, you'd only be getting a camera that's very slightly better, a chip that's basically the same, and then a battery life that's actually slightly worse. All leading the iPhone 13 to sit as a prime discounted sweet spot phone right now. But what if you like it tiny? I've got some good news for you. That's right, it's time for the Best Small Phone Award. I've even got this mini trophy made just for it. Oh, that's adorable. And this one's actually been really easy for me. Because yeah, you've got great small phones like the Pixel 7, like the Samsung Galaxy S23. But the Asus Zenfone 9 is not just even smaller than all of them, but it's also doing that while basically being a top-of-the-line flagship. It's got the fastest chip you can get, up to 16 gigs of RAM, a really responsive screen, and even a 6-axis gimbal-stabilized camera, which lets it take some of the smoothest video available on a smartphone. Oh yeah, and on top of everything else, it has a headphone jack. Now you're just showing off, Asus. But this trophy is rightfully yours. The Samsung Z Flip 4 is also one of my favorite small phones, given that the thing can literally fold in half, but you do have to pay about 1.5 times the price for that luxury. So it's not for everyone. Speaking of foldables though, if you've already decided that this is the route that you want to go down, then who do you pick? Given that Oppo is now making foldables, Vivo's making foldables, Xiaomi's making foldables. Well, I have to say, I think that as of right now, Oppo is the one who currently has the best foldable hardware. They're the only ones who currently have a shape that makes sense in both folded form, where it's basically a slightly podgy but pretty normal feeling phone, and then unfolded, where it's a tablet that's actually widescreen and you can watch videos on, whilst almost eliminating the crease. Then you've got Xiaomi, who's got by far the thinnest foldable, to the point where even when it's folded up, the thing is barely thicker than a normal single-layered phone. But then Samsung is the one who has the best foldable software. And really, if you're going to spend over $1,500 on a piece of hardware, then I would say that nothing is more important than software that lets you best take advantage of it. Like, this taskbar at the bottom is an actual game changer. I'm flying through all of my most recent and most used apps, and you can even save combinations that you would normally want to open at the same time. Plus, the thing that seals the deal for Samsung's foldables is the availability. This is changing, and I'm really excited about it, but for now, most other companies have only released their foldables in China, more as a proof of concept before going full-on global mass production. I can't wait to see what this table looks like when we've got all the trophies out. I'm really excited about this next one. This is the Gaming Award. For the last 6 months, I've been absolutely addicted to this phone game called Bloons Tower Defense. It looks simple, but as you get further into the game, the amount of particles on screen gets completely out of control, to the point where it pushes your phone to its absolute limit. And so I've been keeping an extra eye out for a phone that can actually handle it. And there's only really 3 globally available contenders. There's the iPhone 14 Pro, which is great because Apple's A16 chip is basically the most powerful thing you can get on any smartphone, and that games on Apple tend to be a bit more optimized than games on Android. But it doesn't quite win it for me. The phone gets hot after a period of time, it crashes when you really push it, and it's also just not the most comfortable thing to hold for hours at a time. there's the Red Magic 7S Pro, which is a really tempting package, being one of the only gaming phones with a borderless display, with also really powerful hardware for the $800 you get it for. There's definitely a place for this one, but you also kind of get what you pay for. What you gain in hardware, you lose in software support. You'll only get most likely 1 year of major Android updates. Plus, in order to get this bezel-less design, they've had to use an under-display camera, which is just not quite there yet. You can actually see the pixel arrangement of the screen in front of the camera on the lights behind me. So, the phone that I think really deserves the win here, so heavy, the ROG Phone 6 Pro. It's pretty much halfway in between Red Magic's philosophy of let's just throw some stupidly high-end specs together and see what happens, and the iPhone, which is meticulously planned out and highly optimized. And what that leads you to is really powerful hardware and great cooling that's also had some care put into it on the software front. And that makes it one of the only gaming phones that doesn't feel like gaming is its sole purpose. It's just a general multimedia powerhouse, with also the best speakers and the best battery of any mainstream device. No biggie. And if you're enjoying this video and this lovely little awards ceremony we've put together, then a sub to the channel would be game-changing. What if you don't want to spend $1,000 though? Well, the way that it tends to work in the phone market is that the lower down you go on the budget ladder, the more dominated the market becomes by Xiaomi and Oppo, or more specifically, the spin-off companies that they've created. Because these guys focus on a higher volume of sales as opposed to profit per unit, they're the only companies who even consider it worth it to pack in genuinely strong hardware into these sub-$300 packages. Like this guy, the OnePlus Nord CE2. Cringe as it sounds, this is one of the first times that I think a phone has genuinely held up to its own tagline. Their page describes it as a little more than you'd expect, and whether it's performance or charging speed or the screen, you can feel that here. You've also got Realme, who I would say are even more militant with just cramming in every spec that they possibly can for prices that you didn't see coming. And they tend to pair that with these incredibly bright, bold designs that I personally find delightful, but I could also see how you might think they look like toys. The phone that just edges it out though, and for me, the winner of 2022 Budget Smartphone of the Year, is the Poco X4 Pro. And we've even got a budget font to show for it. It's got the specs, it's got the design, and it also prioritizes battery life, which is just one of those consumer-friendly moves that I want to see more and more companies doing. These trophies are so cool. We even managed to get the separate elevation of each different part of the camera module. And now, just before we get to the best flagship, and the overall phone of the year, we got a really competitive lineup of mid-rangers this time around. We talked about the Pixel 7 that just goes above and beyond. There's the 2022 iPhone SE, the only phone at this price to actually give you full flagship performance. The Poco F4, which is a glowing example of how capable a Poco phone can be when you give the company more budget to work with. Samsung's mid-range phones, which have felt like a bit of a return to form after a few years of some not so great offerings. But I'm not giving the award to any of these phones. This award is going to a new contender, a company who's just entered the smartphone market and, considering that, has hit a complete home run. I'm talking about the Nothing Phone 1. It's got intriguing design, reliable software and cameras, and more noticeably, a level of attention to detail that you only get from an ambitious company trying to prove themselves in an unforgiving market. I'm genuinely excited to see what is coming next from these guys. Alrighty, it's flagship time. And what I've decided to do is to split this into best iPhone flagship and then best Android flagship. Because let's face it, most people have already decided what platform they're going to go for. So, if you're iPhone, then the best iPhone flagship, this is going to blow your mind, is the latest iPhone. The 14 Pro and the 14 Pro Max. They've got fantastic cameras, blindingly bright displays, and even though I have turned off the new always-on display feature, and even though the battery has taken a slight hit from last year, they are still undeniably the best iPhones ever made. And then while we're at it, if you are in the market for iPhones but don't want to spend that much money, then here is my advice. The iPhone 14 Plus is a good, unique option that gives you remarkable battery life for noticeably less money at $899. The normal-sized iPhone 14 probably isn't worth it for $799 if you're considering that, and I would instead get the incredibly similar iPhone 13 for $699. And if you want to spend less than that, then my recommendation would be, instead of going for the $429 iPhone SE, which has a pretty compromised screen and battery, to just go used or refurbished and get an iPhone 12. There's a lot more options on the Android end, because while not every company wants to make budget phones, everyone does want to make flagships. That's where you actually earn some sizable profit. So you've got every brand competing together: Samsung, Vivo, Sony, Oppo, Xiaomi, OnePlus. And you know what? This isn't a super popular opinion, but I actually rate the OnePlus 10 Pro quite a lot. It's not as groundbreaking as some of their earlier flagships, but the smartphone market is quite an equalizing system, meaning that when a phone is unpopular, you'll find that its price very quickly tumbles to try and correct that. And that results in situations like this, where you have a near top spec Android phone, and yet you can find this on the official store for $699 brand new, which is a bargain. Obviously there's Samsung too, which is the default option for a lot of Android users for a reason. And while I would probably skip the standard S22 for its weaker battery life, the S22 Plus is a very reliable all-rounder. And then the S22 Ultra is kind of like the everything phone. Every 2022 smartphone feature, insane camera zoom, built-in stylus, long-lasting battery, it just has all of it. Not to mention Vivo and Xiaomi, who are also both just killing it right now. They have probably the two best phones for photography on the market, but the lack of availability means that there's a decent chance you would have to import. And so, the smartphone that is actually taking home this trophy for the best Android phone of 2022 is the Google Pixel 7 Pro. It is the easiest flagship to recommend for two reasons. One, that it's incredibly simple. Simple to set up with a fast transfer adapter in the box. Simple to use with software that's both intuitive and filled with helpful tutorials. And also simple to take incredible photos with a camera that doesn't overload you with options, but instead just does all the hard work without you even realizing. And then two, it's $899, which is $100 to $200 cheaper than most top-end flagship phones. If you're a company watching this, by the way, then please do ask for these trophies. They are all yours. So who wins this then? Who has really thought about the user? Who has cut the things that perhaps didn't matter as much? Who is going above and beyond in terms of delivering value to the consumer? Well, in my eyes, the answer is, again, the Google Pixel 7 Pro. And you have this trophy to show for it. I've seen a few people say that the $599 base Pixel 7 is better value, but I genuinely think that the Pro has more than enough perks to justify the $300 difference. So let's say that you do end up buying one of these best phones of the year. The Case-Defy Bounce is one of the best cases to protect it with. The company figured out that 70% of phones, when they fall, hit the ground on one of their corners. And it's when all the force is concentrated into a small area like that, that you're most likely to damage it. So they've created specialized air cavities in these bounce corners. They're inspired by Air Max sneaker culture, and they're there to add rigidity and create structural support. And it's kind of insane because this, combined with the EcoShock material, makes this bounce case drop-proof all the way up to 21.3 feet. Or in other words, 6 times military-grade protection. At this point, you'd be having to try to break your phone. They've got over 2,000 designs to pick from, support for straps so you don't drop it in the first place, and the cherry on top is that this entire case is made from recycled older cases. Link below to check it out.